What's good, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is gonna be super chill, chit chat. I have like no makeup on right now, but I just wanna be very casual with you guys in today's video. Today I wanna talk to you guys about the truth about a spiritual journey, which sounds so dramatic, but I can't think of a better title at the moment. So that's what we're gonna call it. I think us as humans, we're all on this spiritual experience. We're all having some kind of spiritual journey, even if we don't call it that. And so when I say that term, I use it very loosely. I don't really mean that it's the specific thing that maybe you're going through, maybe you're not. Chances are you're learning a lot about yourself, especially in the wake of a pandemic, and a lot of us spending a lot more time by ourselves and taking a lot more time to go inwards, right? A lot of us are experiencing what we would call a spiritual journey, even if we don't realize it. And for me, I really started to see myself as more of a spiritual being when I started learning more about what this idea of a spiritual journey meant. Right. So for me, I wasn't raised super Christian or religious. My parents are Christian, but they aren't super like strict. So I never really had like religion or spirituality or any kind of relationship with God forced on me as a kid, which I'm very grateful for. And I would say for me, my spiritual journey really started when I was in college. I studied abroad, which I feel like is such a cliche start to someone's spiritual journey story. But when I went on the study abroad program, I was studying with people who were not like me whatsoever. We came from very different backgrounds and situations, and I still found myself very much relating to and having this amazing experience with these people. And I spent most of the time in that program with these people like all day, every single day, right? Like I was with them pretty much all waking hours of the day, but I found myself for whatever reason wanting to wake up really early in the morning and going off by myself and just journaling and watching the sunrise and just meditating. I would go up on this little rooftop and I just had this like whole experience, right? And I found myself for the first time in my life really feeling the need to go inward and to really explore how I was feeling and why I was feeling what I was feeling. The last part of my trip when I was studying abroad, the actual program had finished, and I still had about like 10 days in Europe, and I didn't know what I was gonna do. I didn't have anyone else to really travel with because everyone else was just going home. So I ended up going on a solo trip for the first time, and I went to Lisbon, Portugal. I just found myself really being called to Lisbon for whatever reason. And that's when I really felt like my spiritual journey really started, because I really gave myself this room to sit with myself and understand why I was feeling what I was feeling at all times of the day, right? So I would explore the city and I would have all this excitement and I would discover all these new things. And it was like this really cool feeling of, for the first time, I was actually paying attention to myself. And I started seeing my emotions, my feelings, all the things that I was experiencing. I started being able to observe them as separate from me. And then I started meeting these really amazing people in my hostel. I started having super deep, really insightful conversations with people that I had never met before, and people who were from all over the world. And I really started for the first time experiencing this really immense love within myself for not only me, but for every single person and every single thing that I encountered. And at the time, I didn't understand what exactly was going on, because this was like the first time that I'd ever felt like this. No one had ever explained this to me. I just was very much confused, like what is happening? It was like I was exactly where I was meant to be. And I just knew in my heart, this feeling of immense love that I was feeling for the first time was what people would describe as God, right? It wasn't the first time I was experiencing God, right? Because God and this feeling of love has always been around, has always been in my life. But it was the first time that I was really able to observe it and feel it within myself and really identify this as, oh, this is God. Like this is the universe, this is love. Everything that I was experiencing was this feeling that everyone had been trying to describe when I had gone to church and when I was reading the Bible and all these things. And I didn't realize it then because I felt like a little bit crazy back then because I didn't know what was going on with me exactly. But looking back, I really do realize that like when you're having this kind of experience, it's not really describable with words. We as humans are so limited in our vocabulary, but energy in itself can be felt. When you're embarking on this spiritual journey, there's a million books out there. There's a million spiritual gurus and teachers and people who are going to tell you what spirituality is. And maybe you've seen the word manifestation on your YouTube channel or on your YouTube homepage like a million times now. All of these things, like, while they are amazing resources and amazing ways for you to learn more about spirituality, I want you to remember that spirituality, like having a spiritual experience, there's no other route to it besides through yourself. And there's no words that are going to ever fully describe the feeling that you feel when you're experiencing this thing, right? Which is why I say again, words are just so limiting. And don't get me wrong, right? You might see and feel and recognize an immense feeling of love and this immense, higher vibrational energy, which again is your connection to God. You might feel and recognize that and see it in your interactions with other people because we are connected as human beings. But you don't need any specific tools or practices to connect with God. You don't need church, you don't need crystals, you don't need a Bible, you don't need tarot cards, you don't need anything specifically to connect with God. But what I have learned over the past few years, and at least what I believe, right? Because all I'm really describing to you guys is my experience and my journey, which is it's always going to be different from your own. But what I've learned and what I believe personally is that everyone uses all of these different tools to connect with God in their own way, right? And even me saying the word God, that in itself is a specific form of verbiage, right? Like that's just one word. Again, we as humans, we're not born with this language and this vocabulary. So when I say the universe, when I say God, when I say your higher power, when I say this feeling of immense love and higher vibrational energy, this is all the same thing, in my opinion, right? And we use these different vocabulary words and different things to describe something. A lot of times we're describing the exact same thing. And for some people, specific tools and practices work for them. Again, there's not one specific route to access God. For me, I really struggled with praying growing up because as a kid, I really struggled to communicate with other people. So for me, I felt like I really also struggled to communicate with God. And so when I started to realize that, you don't even need words to communicate with God, right? God feels your energy through who you are, right? Through your actions, through what you are and what you choose to do and what you choose to align with. You don't even need words to talk to or communicate with God or your higher self. And don't get me wrong, those things can be used and they can be useful. And I do pray more now that I've kind of learned how to communicate better. But again, those things are not necessary. When you hear all these different debates on, you can't be a Christian if you're into crystals, or you can't describe God as this, all these different things. Like, I think there's a lot of what we've been taught, especially in religions, is a control mechanism. And a lot of times it's rooted in fear. A lot of times the reason why Christians are very scared to use words like manifestation or scared to just kind of go over into that spiritual realm is because they're scared that if they do anything to upset their version of God, that they are going to be punished and God is not going to be happy with them. For me, when I went on this spiritual journey, I really started discovering that God in itself, when you're really truly experiencing this feeling of God, there's no room for fear there, right? Again, it's this feeling of immense love and openness and awareness to all things. And when you're rooting your love for God or your connection with God in fear, that's not God. Right? 9 times out of 10, that's not who God is. That's not the same energy or vibrational frequency that our higher selves operate in. So if you come from a religious background and you're going on this spiritual journey, it can feel very new and very scary because it can feel very different from what you've been taught before in the past when it comes to religion. But again, in reality, let's just remember that God, the universe, all this stuff, it operates in energy, right? It doesn't operate in human vocabulary, right? So all these different religions, all these different practices and tools, all these different things, they're all valid routes to connecting with God, right? You can use any of them to connect with God if it doesn't harm people and it actually operates in the field of love that God operates in. And I think the key to doing that, the key to operating on this frequency as often as possible, even when you're not doing your practices or even when you're not using your tools, the key is being present, right? Being present in all that you are right now, all that you're feeling, all that you're experiencing. Being present is the easiest way for you to operate at this frequency of love, right? So when I was having this spiritual awakening or whatever you want to call it when I was in Lisbon, right? I felt myself more than anything. I was having fun. I was eating all these new foods. I was seeing these amazing sights. But more than anything, what I was feeling is this sense of presence. For the first time, I felt myself watching all of my thoughts pass and watching all of my emotions. And I realized that none of these things were actually me, right? When I'm being present, when I'm operating at this frequency of presence and awareness, I'm not Lynette, I'm not a YouTuber, or at the time I wasn't just a student, I wasn't a business student, I was just a spiritual being. So if you're struggling to really understand, like, where do I even start? What do I do? How do I feel connected with source when I'm not, maybe doing my practices or when I'm not meditating? Just remember that, presence is like the key, right? When you are being aware, when you are watching your thoughts, when you are watching and experiencing what's happening and feeling a sense of gratitude for every single thing that's happening in this very moment, right? Just sit with yourself right now as you're watching this video and feel your body, right? Feel your veins, feel the blood that's flowing through your body, feel everything, feel the vibrations of yourself, right? There's energy constantly flowing through you. And when you tap into that and become aware of it, you can feel the sense of love in you, right? You can feel that sense of love at any time. And as you kind of start to learn to do that and fall into that frequency more and more, that is really how your spiritual journey starts kind of, I don't know if the word is growing, but like that's kind of how you start going on your spiritual journey, is learning to come back to the present, learning to be aware of your thoughts and where they're coming from and why why you have them, right? A lot of our thoughts are rooted in past trauma and wounds that we've been experiencing as kids, right? So a lot of the thoughts that we experience and a lot of our triggers and a lot of things that bother us now are because we've been conditioned to think a certain way as kids. I can make a totally different video on that, but when you're going on this spiritual journey and you find yourself like not sure of what practices and tools and things to use, just remember, just be in the present, right? Sit with yourself. You don't even have to meditate. If you're not in meditation, don't do that, right? But sit with yourself and just feel your body and just be in the present. And that's really the key to a spiritual journey, which again is so annoying. I hate using that term, but you guys know what I mean. Like, that's really the key to experiencing this immense source of love. And I think the hardest thing that no one really will tell you when you're going on this spiritual journey is that you're gonna feel a little bit crazy doing this, right? For me, when I really first started discovering this and really started to feel this, I came back to the US from this trip to Lisbon or whatever. I came back to the US and I was like, oh shit, like, I gotta go back to normal now. Like, I have to go to class, I have to be in business school and pretend like all the things that I've been taught about the importance of how to manage finances and all these things are real. When in reality, it's like, I'm just a human being on this planet and I'm just feeling this sense of love. And if I were to talk about it, if I were to try to communicate that in certain settings, it's not accepted there, right? When you're trying to operate as a robot and you're trying to go work a 9 to 5 and pretend to be this person that doesn't have feelings, or when you start interacting with people and being in situations where you're constantly having to be focused on either the past or the future, you're gonna start to feel like you're taken out of that frequency, right? You're gonna start to feel like you're taken away from what you know as God. So for me, my spiritual journey has been a struggle, right? It's not just been this amazing feeling 24/7, right? It's been a lot of me trying to figure out how to integrate this feeling of what I know as God and what I know this feeling of love is into everyday life, into everyday conversations, right? And again, the key to doing that, in my opinion, is just being present in all things. And it's a constant effort, right? It's an effort to do that. So that's why the number one thing that I will say about a spiritual journey is that it's a journey, right? It's not a linear slope. You're not always going to feel amazing 24/7. You're not meant to feel positive 24/7, right? That's not the point of a spiritual journey. When you're in this space of awareness, when you're able to observe your thoughts and your feelings and your emotions, it's natural to and important to observe feelings of negativity, right? There are going to be feelings of negativity that you feel. You have to use that space and that presence to observe it, to learn from it, and to alchemize it, right? So you can transform that energy into something positive. So it can teach you about yourself, so it can teach you about the world, right? And so you can start to realize that anything that's happened to you in the past, anything that, you're maybe worried about in the future, none of it has power over you, right? You are here right now and you are this being that comes from a higher a higher power, a higher source. So any feelings of fear, any feelings of anger or sadness or frustration, all these things that, you know, come your way, it's all natural, because on one side of the pole is love and on the other side of it is fear, right? But it's all the same pole at the end of the day. It's all you, right? You make up, you're connected to every single thing on this planet. So it's all a part of the journey. It's all a part of you. So when you're on this spiritual journey and you're maybe feeling lost, or maybe you're feeling down right now, it's Mercury retrograde. So a lot of people are not feeling their best right now, right? It's natural, it's normal, and you are doing still a great job. So hopefully that made sense. Again, I know this video was very much all over the place. It was definitely a lot more chit-chatty than my normal videos, because usually I'm a lot more organized. But I do want to kind of talk about spirituality and just more of these topics a lot more on my channel. So I really hope you guys enjoyed. I hope it was helpful. And if you guys have anything else you guys want me to touch on, or if you guys like have any questions or anything, definitely let me know. And yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you guys are taking care of yourself, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.